Peace, peace. Greetings to you all. It's your brother Naheem, BKA Lord Abba, aka Mr. Just the Facts. What's going on, family? What is going on? Y'all see the topic tonight. We're going to talk about Mr. Jim Crow Joe Biden tonight. We're going to get into some of the measures that this man has passed, and we just gonna take a little deep dive into this benign neglect that our people have been dealing with in this country, particularly by left-wing liberals for so long. So, family, make sure y'all smash that like button. Make sure y'all share this out. Share this video out. If you would like to support, you can contribute via Cash App at BETHEPOWER using $ BETHEPOWER. You can use the super chat. You can also become a monthly contributor. Peace to the family in the chat. I see everybody in there. Shout out to the BTP Mars that's on deck. Shout out Sister Shayna. Shout out everybody, Brother Cato, Ron Hall, Vince Jefferson. Peace. So, we gotta talk about some things because I got a notification today. I got like several news apps, and I get constant notifications so that I could keep up with what's going on in the news locally and nationwide. And I've seen something that came across my notification screen, and it spoke to the fact that Biden had passed some type of measure for LGBTQ, right? Now, it's not the issue. That is not the issue. The issue is that I keep seeing measures being passed for all of these other groups except ours. Let me pull up this article right here. Let's share this. Because I seen this video when it happened. And there was a brother, Dante Wright protester, bashes Joe Biden for failing the black community. You said you got our back. So the brother said, this is addressed to our president, Joe Biden. You said that if we elect you into office, you got our back. You said, black community, you have my back, I got your back. Then you just said about a month ago that you're going to build the country from the bottom up, the middle out. That includes Negroes. You know what I'm saying? And, this is, I don't know if you all are familiar with this video, but I seen it when it first came out. It says the protester went on to question why the federal government has failed to, quote unquote, take care of the black community, but could provide financial assistance to Americans during the coronavirus pandemic. He said, I have a real problem that the government just out of nowhere, like a magic trick, just printed $6.8 trillion for a pandemic, he said. You mean to tell me we want to take care of the Negro people in this country? Or we can, take care of the Negro people in this country? You mean to tell me we can't get them all the resources we need to help build our community, to have a safer, better community for our kids? He continued, we want opportunities instead of welfare. We don't want government handouts. We want to be independent. We want to start our own businesses. We want to be able to raise our family and build generational wealth. And, for the most part, this brother is right on. The book by Ira Katz Nelson called When Affirmative Action Was White lays out in detail what Martin Luther King Jr. said when he laid out how the United States government gave away millions of acres of land to white immigrants. We play that video a lot on this channel. We play it a lot as reparationists, as freedmen. We play that video of Dr. King speaking about how immigrants were able to come over here and within 2-3 generations, millionaires, blended right in with the rest of white America. You don't even know that they are foundational or not foundational Europeans to this country. What do we get? We get nothing. So let me see. Let me pull up the article that let's pull this article up real quick. This is the article that came across my was one of them. This is not the exact article. It says transgender people say Biden policy reversal helps them get health care easier. And it's speaking about, let me blow this up a little bit. The Biden administration announced Monday that they would reverse a Trump-era policy that limits health care protection for the LGBTQ community. While in June of last year, the government argued the decision was a way to remove a burden that was costing American taxpayers. The reversal means healthcare providers and similar organizations who get federal funding cannot discriminate against someone because of their gender identity or sexual orientation. LGBTQ advocates call the change a win because it will make the healthcare experience easier and more comfortable for those who are trans. Sometimes I feel discomfort just going to a doctor with other problems when they can see my medical history, where it might say that I'm transgender, explained Jordan Gaskin, a transgender ECU graduate. Again, it's not the problem is not that he's passing this legislation for them. The problem is that we're not getting any legislation passed for us. Again, I use the doormat analogy. We are the doormats that America or would-be Americans and everyday average Americans wipe their feet upon before they go into the house that is America. But the importance about the LGBTQ legislation comes from something that Dave Chappelle said during his stand-up, right? And his stand-up was Sticks and Stones. And I pulled up the transcript from that, right? And he said, let me see. He said, you hear all these letters together all the time. LGBT, and you think it's just one big movement. It's not. All those letters are their own movement. They just travel in the same car together. He said the G's are driving the car. G's meaning gays, the men. That makes sense to me because there's white men in the G's. And these people are trying to get around discrimination and oppression. And you know how white dudes are. Quote, we know these roles. In fact, we built these roles. The rest of you buckle up. We'll get you to where you want to go. So the G's are driving the car. You see, anything that white men are the head of, they're going to gain an advantage. So if the Democrats are in power and you have white men driving this particular car that Dave Chappelle uses as an analogy, then you're going to get constant legislation. Joe Biden said on day one he was going to do things for LGBTQ people. In my estimation, this was him saying that he was going to take care of this large group that is headed by white men. It's my estimation. It's my estimation. We as a people, let me see, I got a bunch of articles pulled up. I have a bunch of articles pulled up. We as a people have been medically discriminated against for the longest time. So I pulled this article up earlier. Racism in healthcare. What you need to know. This comes from the website Medical News Today. It says racial discrimination permeates the healthcare systems of many countries, including the United States. This has negative consequences for both parties and healthcare workers, leading to higher risks of illness and, in some cases, lower standards of care for people of color. You know, they got to always throw the POC in there, the people of color and the BIPOC, because it just can't just be us. Can't just be us. I'm going to get to that a little later. It says the COVID-19 pandemic draws attention to this. A May 2020 study estimates that in the U.S., Black people were 3.57 times more likely to die from COVID than white people. Somebody shared a book, Sister Kelly. Shout out to Sister Kelly. She shared this book on a thread that I posted from this same headline called Medical Apartheid. And I looked this sister up and I listened to a few of her lectures where she's talking about the history of the abuse and neglect that we as a people received in the medical field. And yet, this group, headed by the G's that's driving that car, they get legislation passed for them. The COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act that passed the House and the Senate, passed the Senate with 94 votes. Only one person voted nay. It has the name Asian Americans in that piece of legislation at least 8 different times. The George Floyd, and I could be saying this wrong, George Floyd Justice Policing and Police Reform Act of 2020, still languishing. I believe it passed the House, hasn't even been called for a Senate vote yet. But the difference between that bill and the COVID Asian American hate crime bill is that the term African Americans are not in that bill. Not in that bill. When it comes to us, the rising tide lifts all boats. Benign neglect form of politics takes root. And at some point we just got to become so fed up that we make enough noise so that when we do not get what we demand, we can band together. We can unify together around our political ideals and political ideology and start screaming, do not vote blue in 2022. I'm going to get a flyer done up with that. And if any of you want to go on ahead and get one done up, be my guest. If we're not going to get specific legislation for us and cops can murder us at will, the conditions of our neighborhoods are never changed because there's nothing being done to stop the degradation that goes on inside of the neighborhoods. You know, I spoke about this before, how they claim to put money into the neighborhoods and investments, but the only thing they do is facial reconstruction. They fix the facade of the buildings and they plant some bushes and they put up some children's playgrounds. And for them, this is a victory. Never fixing what's wrong with the people, the economically disadvantaged. Let me see. Yeah, that's the new headline. Do not vote blue. I mean, hashtag do not vote blue in 2022. We have to make a push. We have to make a stand. We've heard this term before. Politicians respond to pressure, period. You take yourself off the table. You take yourself off the chessboard, and you see how they fare without us. And when they're ready, they have to come to us. And I mean us, those of us who are having this conversation, and say, well, what are your proposals? So let me pull up, like these articles just was dropping right in my lap today. I was like, oh, this is great. This is great. Massive turnout. Voters of color, i.e. black people, new data fill in the details of Biden's election win. Like we keep showing up and showing out. We get nothing in return. We got black elected officials that won't even use the term black people or mothers and fathers. They're saying black birthing folks. Like, what the hell is that? Black birthing folks. Not man and women, not mother and father or black people or anything that identifies gender-wise. This is a part of liberalism that is hurting us as a people. People are going to identify and do whatever it is what they want that they want to do, but it is politicized in such a way that if you don't use it, you cannot leverage any political weight if you're trying to run for office. I am uncompromising, and so shall you be. I am uncompromising because, it is getting to the point where we can't really afford to live in this country. And I'm gonna show some statistics in a few that proves this. But when it's time for us to get specific policies done for our people, something like reparations, this is what we get. It's an article from The Hill. I pulled this up a couple of weeks ago. Democrats debate timing and wisdom of reparations vote. And they're talking about how these Democrats are, and they're speaking under anonymity. They don't want nobody to know that it's them saying it. So it says, Speaker Nancy Pelosi supports the proposal, but is leaving the vote calendar decision to House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, Democrat, Maryland. Hoyer suggested Thursday that the bill will reach the floor at some point, but stopped short of committing to a vote, saying instead that he would converse with Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler. See, nobody wants to commit to anything when it comes to us. Oh, man, go talk to that person, or I'm going to go talk to this one or that one. Says, I'm going to talk to the chairman, see what we're going to do with it. I presume it'll get a floor vote. There's no urgency there. So what? Black people are poor, and that poverty leads to mental illness, and that this mental illness leads to the high crime rates in our neighborhoods. I mean, I've read the articles on air. I've read those articles right here on this platform. It says Rep. Sheila Jackson Lee, the bill's lead sponsor, all but guaranteed the measure will eventually reach the floor, saying Democrats are aiming to stage the vote roughly 2 months from now to commemorate Juneteenth, the holiday marking the emancipation of slaves following the Civil War. I've spoken to all of leadership, Jackson Lee said. I feel very comfortable with where we are. Well, I don't feel comfortable. Steny Hoyer is a leader. And when asked, he kicked the can. He said, I'm going to go talk to somebody else about it. I'm going to go talk to Nadler and see what he's. I presume it'll get a vote. It said, yet some Democratic moderates are less than thrilled about the prospect of voting on such a politically divisive piece of legislation heading into the 2022 elections, a historically difficult midterm cycle for the party of the sitting president. They'd rather focus on popular bread and butter issues, the economy, infrastructure, fighting COVID-19, than dive into racially charged legislation such as reparations that might alienate voters in their battleground districts. This is not an issue that people in a lot of those districts are concerned about right now, said one Democratic lawmaker who requested anonymity to speak freely on a sensitive topic. The number one issue that we should be tackling right now is COVID. Number two is COVID. Number three is COVID and getting out of the economic crisis they added. It kind of makes you chuckle a little bit when you know what's going on. Everybody doesn't know what's going on. Some people live in their own worlds. And some people are just struggling to live life day to day. And I'm going to pull up an article on that as well. But the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act of 2021 that just passed was a racially sensitive bill. It has the term Asian Americans in it at least 8 different times. It is said, and I haven't verified this, it is said that during the passage of the Civil Liberties Act of 1988, which was reparations for Japanese Americans, the very next year, John Conyers introduced H.R. 40. And the people were told of the Congressional Black Caucus, to be specific, that you shouldn't push that bill because we have an election coming up, and that's going to divide the nation. Barack Obama was told the same thing. Barack Obama repeated these things. Barack Obama is staunchly against reparations. When it comes to us, we are always put on the back burner. And then they come to us. They come to our elected officials. They go to Al Sharpton. They go to the Tamika Mallory's and her little sidekicks. They go to all of those people who scream vote blue, no matter who or however that saying went. And they push this agenda. And because black men are largely affected by many of these policies, like immigration, they focus on the women and they prop them up. I think Goldman Sachs is about to invest $30 billion into black women businesses and programs. $30 billion. We got to see this for what it is, family. I can't, I'm on here tonight, so I can't necessarily see all of the comments, y'all, so forgive me on that. But I don't know if I'm adept enough to read the comments yet and talk at the same time. But when it comes to us, it's always an issue. Always. Always. Everybody else in the United States of America gets what they want. We're told if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Trump could not have said that. Only a white liberal Democrat can get away with saying something like that. No pushback from Charlemagne at that time. But now we have Tim Scott, a Republican bootlick. I call call him what he is, a bootlick, saying that racism doesn't exist in America. Republican, right-wing, neo-Confederates. But then you have the Democrats, Kamala Harris. America is not a racist country. Let me say it correctly. Biden repeats that. Clyburn. No, America is a very, very racist country. It is systemic. Y'all know I pull this article up all the time. It is a part of the system. It is in the medical field. I just showed an article. It is in the financial system. The cost of racism, the U.S. economy lost $16 trillion because of discrimination. Banks. Now, I never really read through this. I always pull it up. I read through it the first time, maybe the second time. Let me read through this real quick. Nationwide protests have cast a spotlight on racism and inequality in the United States. Let me show y'all the source of this. This is from NPR. It says, now a major bank has put a price tag on how much the economy has lost as a result of discrimination against African Americans. $16 trillion. Since 2000, U.S. gross domestic product lost that much as a result of discriminatory practices in a range of areas, including in education and access to business loans. We talk about not having the proper access to capital because you got our people that's always talking this bootstrapperism nonsense because they really don't understand. They don't understand what's going on at all. Some people think because they made it, everybody else can make it. But it's not that easy. It's just not that easy. Everybody else of other ethnic groups usually don't have a hard time accessing capital, while our people usually have a hard time accessing capital. And this bank right here just put it out. So when they come at you with bootstrapperism, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. We don't mind that. We're a working people. You put us in the right position, we're going to get the job done. But when it's time for us to do for us, then there's always an issue. So when it says including in education, where we are discriminated against, systemic. America is a racist country because racism is baked into its structure. It's systemic structure. The things that would cause one to attain upward mobility in this country. Access to business loans. According to this new study by Citigroup, and it is not an insignificant number. By comparison, U.S. GDP totaled $19.5 trillion last year. And not acting to reverse, listen, family, not acting to reverse discriminatory practices will continue to exact the cost. Citigroup estimates the economy would see a $5 trillion boost over the next 5 years if the U.S. were to tackle key areas of discrimination against African Americans. What is Biden doing? He said, Black America, you got my back, I got your back. This article was published before Biden was elected, if I'm not mistaken. Said, yeah, September 23rd, 2020, because we've been pulling this up for a minute now. Citigroup says, we believe we have a responsibility to address events and to frame them with an economic lens in order to highlight the real cost of long-standing discrimination against minority groups, especially against Black people, and particularly in the U.S. Like, this is the bank saying this. This is a bank speaking about the financial system of the United States of America and how it discriminates against our people. This is the bank. I mean, how much clearer does it get? What else needs to be said? What is Joe Biden doing? Let's do this real quick. Let's do this real, like, y'all know how we do over here. We gonna pull up, and we don't talk conspiracy theories and none of that stuff over here. We just the facts. That's it. All of Biden's executive orders and other notable actions so far. This was published March 12, 2021, 2 months ago. ABC News article. And it's running down. COVID-19 response. Executive order on organizing and mobilizing the United States government to provide a unified and effective response to combat COVID-19, right? All of the COVID-19, rejoining the World Health Organization. Executive order on promoting COVID-19. Executive order on improving and expanding access and care to treatments for COVID-19. We're still being boxed out. I just pulled up an article that showed how we're still being boxed out, and yet there are executive orders signed by Biden that are not positively affecting us. Executive orders, all of this is dealing with COVID-19, executive orders on protecting worker health and safety, executive orders on reopening and continuing operations of schools, et cetera, economic relief, pausing federal student loan payments, executive orders on economic relief related to COVID-19 pandemic, workforce. We got a bunch of different, healthcare, the executive orders on healthcare, executive orders on climate crisis, the Paris climate agreements, et cetera, et cetera. All of these different executive orders on all of these different the Democrats' favorite, immigration. You got several executive orders on immigration. Several. You already know every time they get into office, it's a no-brainer. And although many immigrants are starting to vote more Republican and vote more Republican than Black Americans, those of us particularly who are descendants of the freedmen, the formerly enslaved, way more. We're voting for these people at 89 to 95, 96% clips. Our people vote for the Republican between 8 and 12%. Hispanics and other immigrant groups are voting for the Republicans at 20 and 25% clips. And yet they go all out for these people. All out. So I'm just scrolling. Foreign policy. Oh, there go the Democrats' other one. Executive orders on LGBTQ rights. And they just did something again today. Oh, here we go. Racial equity and racism. So let's see what these two executive orders say. Executive order on advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. Includes various directives to promote allocating federal resources and government benefits. Y'all know I pull up this one article where Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, is committing $9 billion to minority businesses. And the article that I pull up shows a sister, right? She looks like one of us, who owns a wine shop in Brooklyn, New York. But the thing is, she's not one of us. As a tribe, she's not a descendant of freedmen. She's one of the fortunate group who do get access to capital in a place like New York City. Y'all heard me tell the story on here about the woman I did security for St. Lucia. I'm not going to rehash it right now, but she said it. You Black Americans seem to have a tougher time, while those of us come from the islands come right over and set up shop. Let's look at this other executive order. An executive order on reforming our incarceration system to eliminate the use of privately operated criminal detention facilities. So this is under racial equity and racism. includes various directives to promote allocating federal resources and government benefits under this executive order on advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities. Yeah, we're going to go out there and we're going to fix up some neighborhoods. We're going to resod some grass. We're going to do some facial construction to the facades of the housing price. We're never going to fix the issue. The crime rate is still going to skyrocket. Police brutality is still going to happen. This is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with. There's one here, memorandum condemning and combating racism, xenophobia, and intolerance against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in the United States. Nothing for black people, though. Racial equity and racism, nothing for black people who have the highest hate crimes committed against them out of every group in the United States of America. We get on here so that we could talk and keep our message rotating in our minds and in our hearts so that we'll know how to approach our politicians, so that we'll know how to step up as we push for political office, as we draft up our own proposals. This is what we're dealing with, family. This is what we're dealing with. This guy's come on, Joe Biden is like the enemy at this point. We have to see it for what it is. Benign neglect. What is benign neglect? Let them protest. Go back. Just go back and think about after George Floyd, all of the protests that broke out, how the Democrats, peaceful protests. It was a talking point. Keep calling them peaceful protests. Like, we got to understand what that means. It is another form of benign neglect. We let them protest. Well, we can just pass bills for everybody else. We don't have to do anything for them. They're just riled up. And so long as they're in the state that they're in right now, they're not going to care. They're a captured electorate. I want to go to something real quick. Matter of fact, let me pull this up. I'm not gonna go through this. I should have been putting all of these links in the chat. My bad. That's because I'm running this by myself tonight. All my bros is a little busy. But I'm about to pull this up. I'm not gonna really get too deep into it, but we're dealing with our own pandemic. We're dealing with our own pandemic. Police and the license to kill. April 29, 2021. That means this was just published like 2 weeks ago. About 2 weeks ago. About 2 weeks ago. Police and the license to kill. Detroit police killed hundreds of unarmed blacks in response to the civil rights movement. Their ability to get away with it reveals why most of today's proposals to make police more accountable are bound to fail, and how we can do better. Like, this is what we're dealing with. The government is doing nothing. And every time we press, we're told, our politicians are told, do not say nothing or else we're going to lose the House in the midterms. Then after the midterms, they say, do not say nothing or else we're going to lose the presidency. And then after the presidency, they say, do not say nothing because we're going to lose the midterm. Don't vote blue in 2022, family. Spread that hashtag out there. Let's let them know that we are not playing. Let's get this message out there. Let's let them know who we are, that we are the faces of this new push, so that they will not bring on people like Shireen Mitchell and Digital Sister, aka Shireen Mitchell, and Joyanne Reed, and try to say these are Russian bots. Y'all could just point back to this video right here and say, nah, that brother said that first. He don't look Russian to me. He don't look Russian to me. This is what a part of what we're dealing with right now, family. It's just as simple as that. I want to, like, I just got a bunch of stuff to share, and I'm just going to run through some of this stuff. Let me put this link in the chat because I've been forgetting to do that. And I've been closing out all of these pages. Shout out to the BTP mod. Shout out to everybody in the building. If you like what you're hearing so far, family, go contribute to the platform. You can contribute by using the Cash App handle at BETHEPOWER, $BETHEPOWER. You can become a monthly contributor via Patreon. You can use that super chat button down there. Make sure this stream is shared out. So let me pull this up. Let's pull this up. This is what we're going through in America. We got these soft-shoeing Congressional Black Caucus Democrats who ain't doing nothing. How PPP loan distribution became the new redlining, family. May 1st, 2021, 9 days ago, this article was published. They keep saying America is not a racist country, and article after article after article, event after event, action after action after action keeps proving them wrong. You know why? Let me say this. You know why Democrats say that? They say that because they want to appeal to white, moderate, centric, or centrist voters who are usually lean neo-Confederate, Republican. That's our term for the Republicans, neo-Confederates. I don't see them as nothing more than neo-Confederates. They are no friend of ours at all. So this has been going on for Malcolm X spoke about this. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke about this. The dangers of the liberal. They believe that in their hearts that they can somehow change the minds of many of these people who at their core are racist and bigoted. So much so that they don't care anything about us. Yeah, that's right, JD. The Reagan Democrats. That's exactly what they are. That's exactly. Metro Customer said if they keep playing with us, they will get DeSantis for the president in 2024. That's a fact. That is a fact. And we have to become more vocal. I don't do this for play. I don't do this just to talk about it. There's action coming behind all of my words, all of our words as freedmen, as reparationists. And I see the brothers and sisters out there putting in that work. And I just want to take the time to acknowledge all of the freedmen reparationists. We have a PayPal Muffet Nellen, but I don't know it offhand. I don't know the PayPal offhand. All right, let's get into this article real quick. How PPP loan distribution became the new redlining. For those of you who don't know what redlining is, I would hope that you would know. But for those of you who are watching this video or who may come across this video, redlining is how the government legally segregated Black citizens from white citizens. And they broke areas down by specific colors, yellow, green, maybe white, if I'm not mistaken. And for Blacks, Negroes, it was red. And the things that they did in these areas, they created the ghettos of the United States of America. So the next time one of these neo-Confederates say to you, well, what about Chicago? He's saying, Or she's saying, what about these black neighborhoods where all of this high crime is? Say, well, the government, your people, created them in the 50s and the 60s. The process started way before that, but in the 50s and the 60s, your people, they created the ghettos. They choked our people off of economic opportunity. And it's still going on. And I just read an article that says that the U.S. lost 16 trillion due to racial discrimination, talking specifically about our people. Okay, so let's go to this. The Paycheck Protection Program was supposed to help small businesses struggling from the crippling financial effects of the coronavirus pandemic, but the benefits, as with other government responses to the crisis, flow disproportionately to where? White communities. A new investigation from Reveal, which analyzed the distribution of more than 5 million PPP loans, found that the program was plagued with widespread racial disparities. The findings show a persistence of the type of structural racism, Kamala, Biden, Clyburn, and those of you who deny that this place is racist, exemplified by the racial covenants and redlining policies of the 20th century. Fam, we are victims of recycled racism. You got people, black politicians, that don't want to say man and women. They're talking about black birthing folks. We have to step up. Our children and their children and their children's children, their livelihood is at stake if we do not step up now. And we have to get this message out there. Period. We have to get this message out there, and we have to become louder and louder. That's why y'all have to be at the rally on June 18th. Make sure y'all support. I'm going to drop the GoFundMe. You can also go on the website. If somebody can put the website link in the chat, I would appreciate that. One of the mods, please. And you can send donations there as well. We're going to have a successful event, and our voices are going to be heard. We are going to plant our flag that day. But let me continue. Reveal found, for example, that in the vast majority of major metropolitan regions, businesses in majority white neighborhoods were approved for loans at much higher rates than those in majority Latino, Black, or Asian ones. You know, they got to always throw everybody else in there. According to investigations published in partnership with the Los Angeles Times, Los Angeles has some of the worst disparities in the nation. Although communities of color were hit far harder by COVID-19, businesses in majority white areas received loans at twice the rate that majority Latin tracts received one, and at half times the rate of businesses in majority Black areas. I mean, we're just getting killed, family, all over the place. This is a Mother Jones article, how PPP loan distribution became the new redlining. What are we doing as a political group, Congressional Black Caucus? How do you not see this? How do you not know this? I don't understand. I'll get to the point where I fail to understand how we have elected officials that let this go on for so long. Do nothing. Don't make no noise about anything. Nothing at all. How? How is that even possible? Let me pull up this other article. Let's pull up this other article. This goes to our Southern strategy. Our return home strategy. This particular article that I'm about to share. Get our people out of these northern cities, back into the South. Check this out. Check this out. This is from a website called the York Daily Record. Bare minimum. I just can't wait to get out of here. Low wage Philly security guard subsists in Kensington. Subsists in Kensington. Shuffling over empty blue heroin baggies and broken beer bottles, because you know people in our neighborhood, we try to find escapes from this life that we are constantly mired in. And I'll turn my face up at people that just look at our people as druggies and as lazy and not realize the history, having read book 1 on the history of how our people got this way. So I don't blame them. I blame the conditions and the fact that our people are looking for an escape somehow. And so they turn to drugs to get a momentary relief from the stress and the mental anguish that comes from living in the ghettos created by this government, who does not want to do anything for our people, although we put them into office at the federal level, particularly the president. It says Tina Moore clutches her glittery purse close to her chest and heads towards a bus stop on Allegheny Street in Philadelphia's Kensington neighborhood. Not too far off of I-95, it's a neighborhood where the street lights are dim and the alleyways are dark. Most of the blocks are lined with 2-story row houses, abandoned factories, and vacant lots. Sounds a lot like Baltimore and Chicago, et cetera, et cetera. Kensington Avenue, the neighborhood's main drag, is a congested mess of takeout restaurants, pawn shops, because you got to have pawn shops in black neighborhoods, check cashing joints, and pubs. And you got to have the pawn shops that charge astronomical interest rates because they know the people are poor. And if they have anything of value that they may have brought with a income tax check, well, the pawn shop is right there to take it off their hands for 1/3 of what they paid for it. And it's going to charge them 3/4 more of what they paid for it for them to get it back. It says missing person posted. You know, it's talking about the hood. The sister said it's hard to pull yourself up out of poverty. I can't stay here. I just can't wait to get out of here. Moore says, clutching her purse and staring at the sidewalk as she dodges the needles plastered on the seam. I'm trying to take it one day at a time because I've seen people die. I've seen people shot outside my window, right? That's the experience that I grew up in. I can't stay here, but right now it's all I can afford. It's all I can afford. We become locked into these, what Charles Blow calls destination cities. 9 times out of 10, we can't afford to leave. I can tell you personally, when I moved from New York down to Georgia, I struggled for the first couple of years. It was tough. It's a tough transition during the recession, mind you. Nobody was hiring. And the only jobs they had available was at the staffing agencies, where they were paying people $7.25 an hour to do construction. Yeah. Yeah. It says it's the first of the month, which just so happens to be Moore's least favorite day of the month. That's when she boards 4 buses just to make a single rent payment. 4 buses. Can't afford a car. to her apartment's property management offices. 2 buses there, 2 buses back. She doesn't have a computer, so she can't submit her payment electronically, and she's too nervous to send it in the mail. $700 is a lot of money for Moore, and the idea of her check getting stolen or lost in the mail is a nightmare she never wants to experience. Now, this article shows that she makes $14.65 an hour. Still can't afford to live in this city. You got neo-Confederates who are pushing to keep the federal minimum wage at $7.25. They don't want to pay people. They want to increase their company's bottom lines. They want to do stock buybacks and enrich themselves. Companies, do not invest in infrastructure anymore like they may have done in the 50s and the 60s. Okay, let's stop that. Let me put that in the chat. I'm gonna show y'all something else. Y'all know how we do this. Y'all know how we do this. We just run through and we do it so that we can get charged up. And we have the conversation and we keep the conversation going so that when it's time to step up, those of us who are ready will. Those of us who are on the fence will say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, it's time for me to step up. It's time for me to step up. So let's go to this article right here. Let me put this link in the chat. Let me put this link right here in the chat. Let's pull this up right here. Okay, how much income you need to be considered rich in every state in America? And it gives you a whole list. A whole list to be considered rich. I'm not going to go through all of this. But in Alabama, to be in the top 5%, you need be making $189,695 annually. The median household income in Alabama is $51,734. Disaggregate those numbers. Just in Alabama alone, where you have some of the poorest Black Americans. Think, who's making this type of money? Who's making this type of money? We've been here from day one. This is why that sister from Philly has to move down south. Matter of fact, let's scroll down to Pittsburgh. Pennsylvania. Okay, Pennsylvania. Minimum annual income to be in the top 5%, $233,467. Fam, you're talking like $1,600, $1,700, $1,800 paychecks a week, if my math is correct. I think my math might even be off. I don't know. Median household income, $63,463. That sister makes $14. Let's do some calculation. That sister makes $14.63. Let me pull up my calculator. Let's compare this sister, that's a good pay coming from where she comes from, right? That's a good pay. Times 52 weeks. That's only $30,000 a year. $14.63 is only $30,000 a year. And let me make sure I did that did my math correctly. 1436 times a 40 work week. Work week, excuse me. $574 a week. Multiply that by 52 weeks. Yeah, damn, my number went lower, 29,000. I might have done something wrong. But either way, it's just not enough money. If the median household income is $63,000, this sister is making less than half of that. I mean, come on, family. Come on. She's making less than half of that. How do you survive in a country? How do you survive in a state where, in order to live comfortably, you have to make double what you're making now? How do you even get to that point? Let's pull up this other article. It's not even an article necessarily. Put this in the chat. Okay. The richest families in the United States of America by cities. The richest, by state. Richest family in every state. There's not one black person on here. Not one. Not one, family. There's not one. We've been here longer than some of these people's families. Some of these people's families are immigrants. They're Ellis Island immigrants. We've been here 200 years before they got here. 300 years before they got here. And yet, some of these people are millionaires. And if not millionaires, still hold enough wealth to be the richest individual families in these states. If we're going backwards, y'all know, y'all know what it is. By 2053, black median wealth will fall to zero. We're getting priced out of the country that our ancestors built for free, that slave labor built for free. Median wealth of black Americans will fall to zero by 2053. That's my grandchildren. That's your grandchildren. Don't vote blue in 2022 unless they are ready to accept our proposals. And we have to come together as a family and start putting our proposals together as a family. I mean, we are, thank you, Ron Hall. This case cannot be refuted. The numbers don't lie. These people are not making up these articles. They are citing statistics by groups whose job it is to crunch these numbers, whose job it is to track racism, etc., etc. That article about the $16 trillion because they discriminated against us since the year 2000, a bank put that together. They put that together. Somebody said DeSantis and Scott in 2024. Hey, that will be their consequence. That will be their consequence. And I don't know what everybody's planning on doing this Juneteenth, but if we could find a way to make just a little bit of noise in every city that Friday, June 18th, some way. Organize something at the state capitol. It's organized, a small little gathering at your state's capital. See if you could get some people involved. Enough of us. We got to we have to create, as the 48 Laws of Power says, create a compelling spectacle. They need to know that across America, there were these protests going on. There were these rallies, I should say. We're not even, I guess we can call them protests. Yeah, we can call them protests. But there were these reparations and justice rallies going on all over America. Because we got one coming up, family. June 18th at the State Capitol Building, Liberty Plaza, Atlanta, Georgia. And if you can do one in your city, you should. And we gotta start reaching out to some of these YouTubers as well, who are way more influential insofar as their numbers, right? As I'll be seeing a lot of these cats, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 live viewers. What's the end game? What's the end game? El Mahib says, you think Biden is going to sign reparations? Yeah. Yeah. I do think that. I also think he won't. But it's based on the amount of pressure that we put on them. My question would have been, brother, how do we make Biden sign a reparations bill? Because remember, brother, it got to get past the Senate. It got to get past the House, then it got to get past the Senate. It is a process. It has to go to the floor for a Senate vote before it even makes Biden's desk. So Biden signing it is not even the issue at this point. You got to have enough senators on board to sign it. And I just read an article earlier where the Democrats said, yo, we need to fall back talking about this reparation stuff. We got to ask the right questions. How do we force him or whoever the president is or whoever would be president? How do we put enough pressure on them to sign a bill for us? Because we don't have to call it a reparations bill, family. The Japanese reparations bill was called the Civil Liberties Act. I want y'all to think about that. It's like, well, y'all don't want us to use the word reparations? Okay, that's fine. Cool. We're cool with that. We're cool with that. We are definitely cool with that. I'm trying to watch the chat at the same time, family. I can't see everything. I'm on here, by myself. So, damn, man, Bob Sanders, I ain't even catch that one when I was breaking down the sister's salary. He said, and that math is before taxes. That's a fact. That is a fact. Sheesh. Man, we can't afford to live here, fam. We can't. And without reparations, how do we build anything? We can form groups, right? And those groups can be a working middle class on up. But it's going to be so few of us that the only thing that we'd be doing is working in our own interest. This is what's going on right now with the Congressional Black Caucus, who reels in celebrities. A lot of the celebrities don't know any better. A lot of us, a lot of you, write in the chat, will run circles around these people. run circles around them, man. They're just not equipped to have a lot of these political conversations. I was on a panel discussion with a bunch of Asian Americans a couple of weeks ago about how Asian Americans and African Americans can unify. So unify around what? Asian Americans are worth $93,000 more than African Americans. They had no solutions. They had no answers to how to proceed forward. For them, it wasn't about unity. It was about advancing their own agenda. And that was it. They start talking about, well, you know, we could get together on gun control. Gun control? What are you talking about? We got people that live below the poverty line all over the United States of America. You're good, though. You're good. You make good money. Let me see. Ron Hall says, be the power. Our elected officials serve their white masters far more than the people. Marlon Watson said, we could call it mashed potatoes if they're going to sign it. That's what I'm talking about. We could call it whatever. We can call it whatever. Just as long as it gets signed and it benefits our people, because that's where the political power comes from. Because what happens is when you become like it's levels to being captured, right? So you have the middle class on up types who are the black politicians. Some may call them the boule, the black bourgeoisie gatekeepers. They become captured in the sense that politics has to help with their bottom line. So they have to join in with the BIPOC and POC conversations. Just look into the backgrounds of some of these people. That's all you have to do. What happens? Let me pull up this tweet. What happens when you have a professor from Purdue who's a professor, mind you, of African American studies? Of African American studies. What happens when you have someone like that who knows the history but chooses to go another way? Let me pull this tweet up. Let's pull this tweet up. This was sent to me. Let me show y'all what's going on here. Give y'all an example of exactly what I'm talking about. We putting this sister on blast, Kim Gallen. Her Twitter handle is Black Digital Hum. She says or quotes someone that says, let me say that, and she agrees with it. She says, I love this. It's this article from someone named Teresa Lance, chasing down the educational debt by centering race in educational supervision. So from this article, it says, let us acknowledge that after hundreds of years of enslavement of BIPOC people, followed by Jim Crow laws, segregation, and white supremacy, a debt is owed and BIPOC children and their families have come to collect. She tags the woman at Teresa Lance. I love this. Let's go back and read that again. Let us acknowledge that after hundreds of years of enslavement of BIPOC people, for those of you who do not know what BIPOC means, it means Black, Indian, and people of color. Indians. What Indians? American Indians or Indian Americans? Because if you mean American Indians, they enslaved our ancestors. The 5 civilized tribes, well, they enslaved our ancestors. When did the European here in America enslave them? And if we're talking about the Indians from over in India, you know, Kamala Harris's peoples, well, when did they become enslaved? People of color? Oh, you mean like the Hispanics and other people that migrated to this country, not those who were put in chains and put at the bottom of cargo ships, black people, Africans, not those people. Well, when did the European enslave them? This sister, Kim Gallen, is a professor at Purdue University, fam. And this is what I mean. So they have to fall in line with the establishment. That leaves the people in the ghetto like it's chaos in the hoods across the U. I think crime in New York went up 300%. I was talking to my mother the other day. She said, you know, they let them out of jail to avoid dying from COVID. And they got out and just start killing each other up. Damn. It's like, damn. This is crazy. Peace, Corey Lorenz. BTP Mars is on deck. Yep. Chief Cook said Roland Martin. Exactly. Elma Hibb said we got to keep fighting. Exactly. We got to fight, fam. Like our politics, they said cash rule everything around. No, politics rules everything around us. Period. Politics rules everything around us. The people that write the policies get influenced by the people with the money. It's just as simple as that. And the people that write the policies can say, you know what? I don't want your money today. I'm going to grow a conscience. We know it never happens. I'm going to grow a conscience and I'm going to do something for the people. They don't do that. That's why they fear brothers like me and sisters like the sisters that's into this movement. They fear us becoming politicians. They fear us holding these seats of office. They fear it. The descendants of freedmen are on deck, family. We are on deck. On deck. And they're going to hear from us. So like I said, man, if y'all can, on the night, it don't got to be nothing super duper large because it's a short amount of time. I wanted to have a crazy Juneteenth celebration. I'm talking about barbecue grills, live band, dinner DJ, fireworks, bouncy houses with water slide. I wanted to do the works. But, you know, that's something you got to plan like a year in advance. And I was being a little stubborn. That's right. Marlon, I'm running with that one. Preem. Politics rules everything around me. Preem. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. Politics is the science of who gets what, when, where, why, how. Simple as that. Congress controls the purse strings. It's as simple as that. Preem get the money. So, I mean, let me see. Someone says, so no one wants to try the economic route. Let me, because I think that the conversation of reparations gets lost in the idea that we don't want to do anything else. It's just not true. There's people that are, yeah, Brother Marlon. Next year, I wanted to do it this year. I said that last year. But COVID just, with that idiot Trump in office, man, it just went crazy. But next year, bro, we need to make noise. They need to know that the descendants of the freedmen are not playing. But Muffet Nellen, I'm gonna assume you're a sister. Not too many men I would think have the name Muffet, so I'm gonna assume that you're a sister. What exactly is the economic route? If you can type up real quick what the economic route is, so we could understand what you mean. But I just said politics rules everything. And that's a fact. That's a fact. Of course we want economics. Of course we still gonna try our best to build businesses. Just because these racists have been discriminatory against us in the financial market, the place where we could get the finances from to become an economic force. I don't know if you was here earlier when I was reading from that article that showed that due to racial discrimination, the U.S. economy, particularly against black people, lost $16 trillion since the year 2000. We're trying. And this racist country, with its baked-in racism, keeps finding ways to exclude us. I just read an article about how PPP loans went the same route of redlining. Of course we want to go the economic route. That's what this is about. We will be secure in nothing unless we have economic security. That's what we're fighting for. Congress controls the purse strings. We don't have any legislation. We don't have any legislation for us. They're continuing to box us out. They're continuing to box us out. Man, we be coming up with some fire terms over here on BETHEPOWER and everybody in the chat, Brother Marlon came with the preem. We go, I'm running with that from now on. Politics rules everything around me. Yeah, we want the money. We need it. We need it. We are the poor, at least the poorest group, I believe, in this country. And those that may be poorer than us, I mean, they have their own lands that they live off of. So they're not, and I'm speaking about Native American groups that, because I've seen some statistics like that, but they have their own stuff. If you put their wealth into measure when they're living off of their own land and their own crops, et cetera, that doesn't factor the same. We're not doing that. We're not living that way. We're not living that way at all. So, Muffet said, I understand, but I mean the way Garvey did it. I mean, you would have to break down what Garvey did. We're in 2021. I can point to what Noble Drew Ali did, what Elijah Muhammad did, what Father Divine did. But at the end of the day, only a few of them, with Noble Drew Ali and Father Divine, had a grasp on the fact that politics rules everything around me. And they were political. They were into politics. It's just as simple as that. It's just as simple as that. We are the poorest. Check the racial wealth gulf. I mean, shout out Macaroni Mac. Shout out Macaroni Mac. Somebody said Black Utopia is not going to happen. Look. let me go here with it. I don't have that attitude, right? That Black Utopia is not going to happen. And we know that there's no such thing as utopias. We know that. But the sentiment behind it is this idea that we just really won't ever be able to get it together. So we're going to be locked in this specific place. I talk all the time about how I used to go to Duluth, Georgia. They have a Asian utopia out there if we're, using the same idea of what utopia means, because there's really no such thing as a utopia. It's just a fantasy. It's a fantasy. But they live the American life far better than we do. They have banks that have Korean or Vietnamese or Chinese characters all over them. They have restaurants. They own the stores. They have a Chinese supermarket with products from China. A lot of stuff, regular stuff that we eat as well for super cheap. I used to shop in there. That hired Mexicans. They hired Mexicans. Like immigrants coming over, establishing themselves, and then hiring other immigrants. Without policy, which way do we go? Yeah, we need economics. We need all of our people who are business-minded to step up and do what they can. I think that the Southern strategy that we are promoting, trying to get our people to move back down to the South, is a perfect way for realtors to start the process. Appeal to those who have money, who can deal with companies that may want to put factories in places where there aren't any. Start hiring the locals. Start pulling in people from the other state. You know, it's a process, it's a phase. We can build what we want, but America, all right, I gotta play this. I gotta play this. I don't know if people understand. I gotta play this right here because I really don't know if people understand like what has happened to where we get to this place right now. Have you not read Ira Katz Nelson's book, When Affirmative Action Was Right? White? If not, you might not understand. But I gotta play our OG right here. Gotta play our OG right here. Let's listen up real quick, y'all. For those that may not be familiar with it or have heard it and forgot the context, because we still trying to push something that we think is antithetical to the goals that we're trying to reach collectively. It's not. But let's let King tell it again. Let's preach to the choir, King.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with, and this is a reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
It's that simple. The government helped everybody else. I see your comment, Tiffany Hooker. She says the point I am making is that we need to get beyond the Disney endings. We are not all going to agree. We just need to agree on one thing: reparation. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to contextualize a lot of the comments that I see. So the only thing that I can do is read them and react. I don't know if you think that we push Disney endings over here on Be the Power. I don't know if you're familiar with our platform, but that doesn't happen here. Ain't no Disney endings over here. You know, and I don't know the context of some of these comments, and I can only respond to them how I see them. Sometimes I'm wrong about a person's intent or what they're trying to say. Let me see. Richard White said, politically organizing and directing local political capital and budgets to repair is reparations. No, that is a form of reparations at the local level. That's just a form of reparations. That's a form of reparative justice that starts with, number one, studying the effects of racism and discrimination in the state that you're in, if you're going to talk about local politics, and then making a determination of what's needed in those states, et cetera, et cetera. And again, that Southern strategy, bringing our people back down to the South, then we can take over. Then we can form, in this case, we would have the state legislative, we would have control of the state legislative body. We would have control over the governorship. Then we can do that. But that would not negate reparations for the rest of our people all over the United States of America. So I wouldn't say that that's not reparations, but it's just a form of it that is central to one location. It is not a broad solution, So, okay, Tiffany Hooker said, "I watch." All right, Tiffany, sister. I don't know. I don't know if you getting Disney endings over here, sis. We definitely ain't talking no Disney endings. We talk about rolling up our sleeves, putting our Timbs on, or our square tip, or you might be a pointy tip. It don't matter. We talk about putting your heels, right? If you're a sister, your Reeboks, your running shoes, whatever you got to put on your feet and hit that ground. Period. That's what we talk about over here. Getting that work done, becoming a political voice. We see what happened with how the reparationist movement. Well, some people don't want to use the term reparationist, but we're not gonna go there right now. But we see how that movement caused a spark to whereas reparations is now an unavoidable issue. We got to keep it going now. This time we got to get active, not just vocally. We have to become men and women of action now. And that takes work. That requires boots on the ground for real. And I shout out brothers like Marlon Watson. Speaking of local reparations and local initiatives, got to give a shout out to that brother. And shout out to the freedmen of Chicago, Arthur Ward, Sister Cynthia. Oh, they up there putting work in. Mental, I believe it's making crime or recognizing crime as a mental health issue. If I'm not mistaken, you could correct me if I'm wrong, brother Marlon. But this is what it is, and this is what we're designed. This is what we designed this platform for, to rile up that energy that says F that. I am a freedman reparationist, point blank, period. Tiffany Hooker said, we definitely need to get off the Democratic plantation. Let this be the last time they disrespect us. I agree. Let me see. Ron Hall says, Asians want to unify, make it a standard for at least one black employee in every Chinese, Asian restaurant or store in every black neighborhood to start. I mean, that may show something, right? The OG Otis, shout out to the OG Otis. He said, equitable distribution of local funds is never going to be reparations. ARC, acknowledgement, redress, and closure. Hashtag from here to equality. The OGs is chiming in. The OGs is chiming in. It's like, it is what it is. That's why I said that's a form of reparations, but that's not reparations. You can consider that a form of reparations. Say, Kamala spent all that time calling herself black, all to say America isn't racist. Ron Hall said we need to Nat Turner the Democratic Party, uprise and usurp it. I mean, if that's the sentiment, then somebody got to lead. Everybody got their job to do. Everybody got a job to do. Period. Period. T Sessions L said Asians in LA only hire Mexicans. Shaking my head. It is what it is. It is what it is. You know? So that there was that bill, something that was passed today with Biden. I read it earlier. I don't know if it was a bill or it was just a reversal. Yeah, it was a reversal, excuse me, of some, I believe, executive order that Trump had put into place. You know, it just, I got it. You know, y'all know we go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I had to come on tonight. I had to come on. I had to come on. Michael Joy, my brother Macaroni Mac said, America enjoyed the thrill. Now it's time for the federal government to pay the bill. That's what I'm talking about, bro. That's what I'm talking about. All right, let me see. Muffet Nellen said, brothers and sisters, I'll work with y'all to politically organize in the fight for reparations. But if we are still here after 10 more years, why not form groups to buy land, property, and businesses? Look, if you're a sister, I want to do that now. I want to buy land and property and form businesses right now. Like we just got some blockage, sis. We got some blockage. That's why I read the article about how we're 16 trillion. I got to go back to that. 16 trillion lost due to racism. I want to own land. I want to own property. I would love to have a piece of property with a farm and a rocking chair with a piece of straw in my mouth, watching some chickens and ducks and horses and cows run around. No pig. I know we'll do no swine over here. But I would love that. I would love that, to get on some tractor or whatever piece of equipment out there, then jump into my Mercedes or my Bentley. Of course, we would love that. All of us would. We would love that. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying that in our fight, if you are business minded, then you should form groups within groups. Hell, I'll be on a team. I will be on a team, because that business, whatever we produce, is going to at least give us some finance, to give us some leverage, to get a seat at the table. Politics rules everything around me. No, I'm with that. Okay, we got one of these Dane Calloway clowns in the chat that we brought on last week, and I'm putting a video together now. I'm gonna shut Dane Calloway down once and for all. I'm putting a video together like how I used to put videos together. So y'all already know, those who know how I used to do my thing, then you know this guy with this funny sounding name, Tight Sam, pause, the North American Negro, said freedman does not mean what you think it means. So what these clowns do, and we have to call them what they are, they're clowns. They're clowns. They're trying to take the history of our ancestry and distort it. They're white supremacists. Dane Calloway and the rest of these pretendians are white supremacists. Freedman is exactly what we know that it means, because we looked it up. We read all of the Freedman bills, starting with Special Field Order 15 to House Resolution 29 that was put together by Thaddeus Stevens. What these guys are going to tell you Harriet Tubman doesn't exist, and that she was a conductor of a real railroad that was underground, a subway, a subway. I'm about to destroy Dane Calloway once and for all, and we're going to run these pretendians up out of here. So we're not going to keep addressing these clowns, man. We're not gonna keep addressing these clowns. Like my brother Ali said, we're gonna be on Dane Calloway's head because he's a white supremacist. We're getting rid of these guys. Metro excuse me, Metro customer said, when will these aboriginals do politics to get their land back? They won't. They don't do politics. They do Dane Calloway videos. This dude got videos that go back 3 years. They've not moved the needle once for themselves. Once. Oh, they everybody a little busy tonight, brother Macaroni Mac. Everybody a little busy tonight. You know, I figured that as well, you know. And so I knew I was going to be holding it down, and I'm about to end it in a few minutes. But you know, we gotta come on here. Okay, brother Ali just jumped on.
Yo, peace. You can hear me?
Peace. What's going on, bro?
Now, I got something to say, man. I was trying to just listen in until this. Look.
Until tight Sam pause jumped on with that nonsense.
Yeah, because
okay,
I want it to be known that you already said it. I said it in the chat, but I want people to really understand once they start listening to the rhetoric that this guy is spitting, that he's actually a white supremacist. And we're not saying that just to be, you know, like, you know, hey, y'all are just, you know, saying slick stuff at him and calling them names. No. If you listen to what Dane Calloway is saying, he's actually a white supremacist. He is attempting to absolve white people of any wrongdoing and place all of the wrongdoing on the so-called Negroes for being violators of lawfully enforceable employment contracts. This is what he's trying to say Negro chattel slavery was. He says it was really not Negro chattel slavery, that these people were actually under legally binding employment contracts, and the black people who were the fugitives or runaway slaves on the Underground Railroad, or the ones who was just self-emancipating outside of the Underground Railroad, these people were actually in violation of lawfully enforceable employment contracts. This is what Dane Calloway is saying. This is what he's saying. This guy is a white supremacist because he's trying to make Negro chattel slavery the problem of the black man. Like, this is something that he caused. He was at fault because he was the one violating these legally binding contracts. And here's the thing about freedmen. I want to say this, and then I'm going to let you get back to what you was doing. Freedmen is our tribe.
That's right.
If you are an Indian, it is not your tribe. Mind your fucking business. Don't have nothing to do with you. All right? Freedmen are the people who was forced to identify as Negro, Black, Colored, African, Afro-American, African-American, you name it. Those are the people, the ones who descend from the ones who were enslaved and emancipated 1865 by the 13th Amendment. That is our tribe. If you are not a member of our tribe, if you're a Chickasaw, if you're a Choctaw, if you're Iroquois, any of these other things, mind your goddamn business, because nothing we're talking about has anything to do with you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
All right, bro. I'm out.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mark. And he's right. He's right. Mind your business. Their goal is to try to trick us into believing that what the records say about our own ancestry is not true. That the stories that our great grandmothers passed down to our grandmothers, that passed down to our grandmothers, that passed down to us isn't true. It's all made up. Figments of the imagination. Your people weren't really enslaved. They were indentured servants that worked under contracts. And they weren't, this dude, Dane Calloway, said they weren't runaway slaves. They was just running away from their contract work. So, right, and I'm gonna touch on this in the video. Because like I said, we are going to end this slave Calloway stuff once and for all. Once and for all. There's no more this nonsense, man. And he knows that he has a very, very large audience of people that just love being fed BS with with knit needles. But I want to pull this up just real quick, because we got to battle white supremacy, even when it comes from people that look like us. Fugitive Slave Act, September 1st, 1850. They didn't call it the Fugitive Indentured Servant Act. They called it the Fugitive Slave Act, passed on September 18, 1850 by Congress. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 was a part of the Compromise of 1850. The act required that slaves be returned to their owners, even if they were in a free state. The act also made the federal government responsible for finding, returning, and trying escaped slaves. If you understand this act, and you understand the reverse Underground Railroad, you understand 12 Years a Slave, which Dane Calloway says was fictitious. So the guy that wrote the book about his being enslaved for 12 years, no, that didn't happen. All right, let me see, man. Let me see. See what can I find in here that I can read. Because they're calling them fugitives of labor. That's see, and that's one of the tricks that Dane Calloway wants to use on people's minds. Like Section 3, and be it further enacted that the circuit courts of the United States shall from time to time enlarge the number of the commissioners with the view to afford reasonable facilities to reclaim fugitives from labor and to prompt discharge of the duties imposed by this act. It's going to keep calling these slaves fugitive laborers. And they weren't. These people, they were snatching free men and women from the North, bringing them back south. Remember, in 12 Years a Slave, he kept saying, that's not my name. And they kept saying, this is your name. Treated him as if he was a runaway or one of the plantations. He was smart. He was an engineer. He was an educated Negro that can play the fiddle and etc. He wrote about his own story. We're going to destroy Dane Calloway. We're going to destroy this dude once and for all. So, you know, I don't, this guy's tight Sam Pauls is still in the chat. He's saying that that's Google. And while he's telling me to Google something, he's saying that's Google. These people are, and y'all heard them when they came on the other night. They're not educated. They don't sound educated. They don't sound like they read anything relevant. They sound like they just listen to videos of people spew nonsense all the time. We got to get out of that. We got to get out of that, family. So Calloway is an Anglo-Saxon name. Dane is what was Dane? Was it a Danish name? I think. We pulled it up. These dudes, just clowns, man. Start hiring private investigators on these dudes and find out who their brothers and sisters and their mothers and fathers and aunties and uncles and them are. And then throw a camera up in their face and they're going to tell you exactly who he is. Like, we ain't no damn Native Americans and no Indians. We come from the corner of such and such and such and such in the hood. All right, I'm going to read a couple of these comments and get up out of here. Tiffany Hooker said they are rewriting history. They're trying to. They want to, but they can't because the freedmen are here stepping up. The reparationists are stepping up all over. Even a lot of the Afrocentrists be destroying these guys, absolutely destroying them. So they really don't have nowhere to run. A lot of what Dane is doing, Dane Calloway is doing right now is just trolling. That's all he's doing. And he's doing the work of white supremacy for him. So Metro Customer said, what is the Aboriginal Economic and Liberation Plan? They have none. They don't have a plan. Dane's plan is I am going to milk as much out of these idiots as possible. I am going to be Big Chief scam artist or Big Chief running game. And that's going to be it. Big Chief running game. Let me see. Yeah, they getting that tight Sam pause in the chat. That is just the funniest name. I don't know, man. Let me see. Native American, nah. He's a clown from the Fourth War, Sister Riri said. Blown away. You guys figured out Calloway as a trolling white supremacist. Is he Dane Dash or Dane Dummy? And I mean, let me see. Todd Davis says, check out the book, The Kidnapping Club, Wall Street, Slavery, and Resistance on the Eve of the Civil War by Jonathan Daniel Wells. Freedmen and fugitive slaves were being snatched off the New York City streets. I mean, come on. Come on, man. And even the Moors that know what they're talking about, because you got some of them crazy faker Moors that we had on the other night, says, I am a Moorish American Muslim, not a Native American. I.e., I'm not with that crap. My brother Ali said Dane Calloway is good at appealing to ignorance. Honest, brother Bob Sanders. Honest. Thank you, bro. Thank you. So I'm gonna get up off of here. You know, I wanted to come on here. I wanted to speak to Biden and his benign neglect. He's an expert at it. He is an expert at benign neglect. And how they get the CBC to keep rolling with them. When we get in office, one of the first things we're going to do, honest, one of the first things we're going to do is start the Freedmen Caucus off rip. We will replace the CBC. We're going to make noise. We're going to be a force to be reckoned with, family. But we got to do it. And we got to find a way to unify. You know, I don't know how to reach out to a lot of these guys on these other platforms. I'm going to always question like the end game. What is the end game? Because our end game is laid out in almost every video we've done since we've started live streaming Be the Power last year. We have an end game. Reparations is the biggest part of that end game. Political power is the mainspring of it. So, you know, we have to step up. This is the time for us to unify those of us over here at Be the Power. Let me say, we've been out there, especially me. We've been out there in the public. Who want to test my integrity? Right? Who want to use that what is that stone called? It escapes my mind to test to see if this gold is real. You come test to see if this gold is real. We don't do no sucker stuff over here. We don't do no fake stuff over here. We don't do no turn, none of that nonsense over here. We are men, upright, fearless, and independent. And it's time. It is time for us to come together. It is time for us to move as a political unit, use our voices and use our platforms. If not, then we're just really no different than Dane Calloway. The only difference is we're just not lying to people, but we're still just talking. And I'm tired of talking. I get on here because we got to keep the conversation going. But like I've repeated in the past, it's going to be time for us to, put them boots on the ground and, do what needs to be done for our people. It's as simple as that. As simple as that. And I want to say this as well. Honor, Sister Tiffany. This is to the sister that was in the chat, Muffet Nellen. We gotta do business. We gotta have businesses. We got to. We can never stop trying to push and trying to do the things necessary to advance ourselves and our groups. And no one is ever saying that. We've never, ever said that on this platform. We look through the scope of our whole tribe. That's how we view, that's how we see things. We look at the whole tribe. And those of us that have the business skill and the business acumen and the connections, et cetera, to do the things necessary to get the job done business-wise, we have to promote that. Matter of fact, give us some ads so we can put them up on the platform. And a matter of fact, let me make another announcement. Y'all know we got another channel, the BTP Media Group. We don't want that channel to go dormant. And we would like to get a collection of sisters to do the same thing the brothers do over here, but over there. And maybe the sisters can, be a little more diverse with the topics. Touch on things that a lot of the sisters may want to hear, particularly when it comes to politics. So, for the sisters that want to step up and host on our second channel, let's get it. Let's get it. Let's go. Hit me up. btplivecast@gmail.com. btplivecast@gmail.com. If you know how to reach me through social media and any other means, Twitter, Facebook, etc., do so. Let's get it going, family. Let's keep this thing, because like I said, we want to build. We gotta have media. Just because I say I'm tired of talking don't mean that we don't need our own TYT or CNN, MSNBC, etc. We need that. We definitely need that. Corey said, that's you, Sister Riri. Riri out there running that lobster business, the lobster queen. I would love to have Sister Riri come through every once in the blue on this platform. Forget just having her come through on a sister platform, but and we support our sister. That we already got a business person. And Brother Ali be right there with her, making sure that thing running. And her business is popping. We're gonna give a shout out to the Lobster Queen. So if you are in the New York, New Jersey area, Teaneck, New Jersey, go support our sister and get some of that fire Lobster Queen food. I'm vegan, but I'm not one of them religious vegans. People gonna eat what they gonna eat, period. So with that said, family, I'm gonna get up off of here. Thank you all for being a part of tonight's discussion. Shout out to everybody that's coming through. That came through, I should say. If you didn't click like, make sure you click like before you leave up out of here, man. Okay, definitely, sis, definitely. Yeah, we gonna get this thing going. We gonna get this thing going. We gonna keep this platform moving, and people are gonna know that the freedmen have resurrected, and we will never ever go back to sleep, and nobody will never ever rock us back to sleep, because we just gonna keep building up and raising up our own leaders. Y'all know the platform of the motto, but let me say it again. Don't just fight the power, become the power. And then and only then will you have the power to make a change. And with that, I say peace.